We dropped down to 8%. And now, that's total government take. That includes royalties, corporation taxes, production taxes, all the ways that we collect revenue from the oil industry. And now we're down to 3% this last year. We cannot afford to be hemorrhaging like that. And just to give you a perspective, an example, BP, British Petroleum, last year made $115 million worldwide. Now they're used to making billions upon billions of dollars worldwide just to low oil prices. But they plan things for 50 years. They don't plan things year for year. They plan things 50 years out. Of that 115 million that they made worldwide, where they produced billions of barrels annually, here in Alaska, we were $85 million of their profit worldwide. And I remember when I first got elected in 2009, I remember hearing a bunch of lobbyists talking about and bragging about how BP was the 5th largest gross domestic product. If they were a country, they were the 5th largest country in the world based on gross domestic product. And so that's the power that they have, the richest corporations in the world. So that's something that we needed to fix. The second thing is we did. And the reason why we did that is anytime there's a loss of income to pay for government, I don't care how you cut it, that's an income tax. And so when we saw that the Senate wanted to cut the permanent fund dividend to pay for government, we said, no way. We're not going to do a Senate Bill 26 plan alone by itself. So we incorporated the permanent fund with the income tax. That way we have parity, so it's fair. Because if you do that alone, it's a 9.6% burden on the lower 20% of Alaskans. And you're asking fixed income seniors and children to be paying the same amount of tax as multimillionaires. And that's the reason why you'll find that there's 4 different groups out there on how they look at the permanent fund. The first group is saying, yeah, go ahead and take my permanent fund dividend because that's the cheapest tax I'll ever pay. I don't need it, take it. Then you got a second group of people, and I'd say working class conservatives, that say, hey, this is a big part of our economy. Get your paws off my permanent fund. I know how to spend it better than government does. Cut the budget. And you got a third group of people out there that say, hey, we need to protect our public education system. We need to have public safety. There's a big pot of money in there. This is one way of doing that. And then you got a fourth group of people out there, and I would think I fall in that category, and that is saying that this is the most unfair tax that you can impose on Alaskans. And so what we've done is we've balanced that out. So don't be afraid of the income tax that we put in place. It is to put things fair. It is to make sure that children still get a dividend, but then the wealthy can use their permanent fund dividend to pay down their tax liability, and then also be able to pay a little bit more and pay what's really fair. And so it's a balanced approach.
Committed to that concept?
Pardon me?
As your caucus committed to that concept? In other words, no.
We passed that all over the Senate. We stuck together on that, and there was 22 of us that did that. And we're continuing on, and that's the reason why we're on the special session that we're in today, is because we want, again, something that's fair, something that's balanced, and something that doesn't burden one group of people over another group of people. And I hate to say it, but we're all going to have to pitch in. Now, the oil tax system that we did is we set a floor, so we're no longer going upside down on our production taxes. And then we also are addressing the cash subsidies to the oil industry. And so we've done that. Those are the 2 primary components of our plan. The Senate has rejected it. The only thing they want to do is cut the tax credits, but they also are doing these net operating losses that the companies can carry forward. So that means when we do have additional revenue, we won't see any coming back to us for many, many years, because that's selling out our future. So if we have another Exxon Valdez oil spill, they're going to be able to write that all off for generations, for decades to come. So that's some of the things that we wanted to fix. The Senate kind of turned that around and instead of giving out the cash subsidies to the oil industry, they're letting them take those net operating losses and carry it forward for longer years. So that's basically what we're doing. This is what the struggle is. That's what this fight is about. So I say all of that, and I didn't mean to take so much time, is that not this Saturday, but not this Sunday, but the following Sunday on June 11th, there's going to be 3 rallies. One in Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Juneau simultaneously at 1 p.m. at the legislative information offices in Anchorage and Juneau, and then again at the Capitol. Anchorage and Fairbanks, and again in the Capitol in Juneau. So please show up if you support our plan. We really need the public's backing on that. It's June 11th. Yeah, that's a Sunday. And sure, a lot of people won't be in their offices, but it's not about us hearing you. It's more about making a presence, having people stand and rally, and making the news, because this is where we can try to break the gridlock that we have going on right now. I'm proud to say that the governor is on our side on this one. The Senate is the one that's standing in the way, if you will, of Alaska going back into prosperity. And so we do need to take control of our own destiny. It is going to take all of us working together. And that's one thing that we tried to do, is we tried to put a package together that we knew that everybody's going to be a little bit upset with us, but in the end, they're going to be proud of the work that we did. And I am proud of the 22 of us that have been standing together on behalf of Alaskans. So,
John Tracy, a couple weeks ago, on his Thursday Premium piece, has a very interesting concept. For those legislators that believe that there hasn't been enough cuts made, how about taking the initial cuts from their districts? That way, if these constituents truly believe that less government money should be spent, how about if they make a commitment to have that? You're smiling. I'm serious as 10 heart attacks here.
Yeah. No, I'm only smiling because they are boxing themselves in a corner. They're having a hard time finding anything.
Oh, I agree with you.
All they want to do is
the point is that they haven't proposed the cuts, so they have to come from their districts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
Plain and simple.
No, I agree with
That
that.
drives the point home.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did our part. The Senate has everything now. And so we're just waiting for them to do their part. So.
And I had one other question. If our oil royalty is 12.5%, how can we possibly be taking in less than 12.5%? I mean,
we're paying out the tax credit.
I understand the production tax credit is underwater, but I mean, to go from 12.5% to 3%, you need to be writing columns in the paper, because I don't think most Alaskans, I pay a lot more close attention than the average bear. And I didn't understand that it was that low, so you need to tell people what the truth is, that, you know, we should be getting at a bare minimum. Well, if we would deal all of the taxes, we'd get our 12.5%.
We're paying cash subsidies to those industry up front before they were making profits. That's the reason why. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Donna Marie. I'm a member of Alaska CLUE. We're the group that organized this event. This is our second constituents town hall. We had one at UAA in April that was very well attended. We're here because we think we all matter. We care very much about the issues that are facing us, and we want our members of Congress to hear our voice. Now, I want to take a moment to thank the people that have helped put this together, not just the members of Alaska CLUE, but I also want to thank the Protect Our Care Alaska for helping us both financially with the expenses of the room and with publicizing the event. So thank you very much. Your support means a lot to us. And if you have want any information about Protect Our Care, there is a pamphlet at the table at the front of the room, or the back of the room, I guess. I also want to say thank you to IBEW for hosting us here. Now, we invited our Alaska delegation. Senator Sullivan told us that he would not be attending because he had his own town hall about 10 days ago. Congressman Don Young did not respond at all. And Senator Murkowski's office called today and told us that she was sending a representative. And we have Dylan Faber here with us. And he said he would introduce himself.
Everybody, it's great to see you guys all this beautiful Alaska evening. Your guys' commitment to be here and share your stories on this beautiful night shows that these issues are very important to each and every one of you. The senator's not able to make it tonight, however, she sent me to take notes and report back to her what's being said. I also want to thank each one of you guys who are calling into our office, who are showing up into our office, who are writing us letters, because it helps the senator and our staff gauge where Alaskans stand on issues that are important to them. I'm not able to speak on the senator's behalf. I'm not authorized for that. However, I'm willing to take all your messages back to the senator, pass it on to our chief of staff, her, and all of her advisors who give her information on the issues. I'll be sitting back here taking notes. You guys are welcome to come talk to me, but like I said, I'm unable to answer questions on her behalf, but I'm going to pass on everything that I can. So thank you for showing up. It's great to see you.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Now, at the table where you came in, there were some resources. We have a sign-up sheet. If you care to give us your email, we'll keep you notified of future events. On your seat, you'll see red and green cards. If a speaker makes a comment that you really like, that's what your green cards are for. If you disagree with the speaker, that's what the red cards are for. We want to try to keep this respectful, so even if you disagree, please use the red cards. A round of boos is disrespectful, but a round of applause for a good question or a good statement is not. There's also postcards and greeting cards on most of the seats. So if you would like to use them to write to one of your members of Congress, we have their addresses up over here on the board. And if you want to do that, just fill out, say whatever you want. We have a basket at the table. You can drop them off and we'll take them from there and mail them for you. Okay, we are recording our meeting. We are not streaming live on Facebook as far as I know. Everything is being video recorded, and we will post to YouTube and send links out mostly through Facebook once we get that done. We'd like you to use the mic up here in front, in part because that's the only mic in the room and we want to be able to hear you, and in part because that's where our video camera is pointed. So it will give us the best video of the event. If you will please come up here and use the microphone, or if you don't think you need the mic, at least come up front and talk to us. Yeah, the moderator will time your comments. There's not too many of us here, so I think, we can easily have 3 minutes each, but do please try to be brief, and if the timer goes off while you're talking, try to wrap it up and give a chance for everybody who wants to be able to have their say. Please avoid yelling out questions and comments. If you want to say something, come on up. The mic will be all yours. We're going to follow a town hall type format, just as if our representatives were here. You'll come up, you'll make your statement, you'll ask your question, but of course we will have no response. The other person who is here that I'd like to introduce and give just a moment of our time is Dimitri Shane. As of now, he is the only person who is registered to run against Don Young in Congress in 2008. So with that, Dimitri, would you come
Hey,
up
John,
and-
I was told we could go a little bit longer than 7 if we want, so,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
I've never used one of these before.
Use the mic.
All right. Right. Hello, I'm Dimitri. I'm a candidate for U.S. House of Representatives in 2018. And I have lived in Alaska for over 20 years. I have an e-commerce company where I invent and sell products. And I have 6 children, and my wife, Melissa, and I live here in Anchorage. I'm running for Congress because there are many issues that I care about, like women's rights, environment, and public education. I really don't see much progress being made in Congress on these issues. In fact, I think we see the quite opposite. A major issue among these is universal health care. We know universal health care works because it works here in Alaska. My wife and I have 6 children who are Alaska natives. And we have a universal health care system here in Alaska that serves over 100,000 Alaska Native people. So whenever my kids feel sick, whenever they need medical care, they break an arm, they need surgery, we simply take our children to Alaska Native Medical Center on Tudor and Diplomacy Drive, just up the street here, and all of their medical needs are met. And I feel like we're getting the best care in the world. It doesn't cost us anything, and we have happy, healthy kids on top of that. And I feel that it should work that way for all Alaskans. There are many instances in our lives where universal health care has been absolutely crucial. For example, when my wife Melissa was in medical school, she was pregnant with our first child, and we did not have health insurance coverage. However, she was covered by Alaska's universal health care system, even when we were in Seattle. So she was able to finish medical school, deliver her son, and get the medical care that she needed. And now, our city is a better place because my wife practices here as a physician and works with an underserved and underprivileged population and makes our city a better place each and single day. There are also instances in my life where I started my own business and I was able to go out there and take a business risk, and I did not have to worry about putting my family's healthcare needs at risk, because they were covered again by Alaska's universal health care system. So that is important for people in our state to be able to go out there, innovate, and start businesses. So I recently checked on the cost of health care in our state. It would cost me over $5,000 to insure my family. That's over $60,000 a year. So it's important to note that these types of costs are keeping Alaskans from starting businesses, and it's keeping Alaska from growing economically. So once we have universal health care in our country, and I believe we will, once we have, it will be the best tax credit or a tax cut that any working family can possibly hope for, because there will be thousands of dollars in our family's bank account because they no longer have to purchase health insurance. Once we have universal health care in our country for all our citizens, it will be the best tax cut any existing business can get, because all the employees will be insured by actually can get their health care through universal health care system. And that business can use that money that they're spending now on the costly insurance policies. They can use that money to expand their businesses, hire more employees, and grow their business. So the first step to gain universal health care in our country for all our citizens is to vote for representatives who understand the value and importance of universal health care to our citizens and to our economy. Thank you for having me.
I would like to point out, everybody approaches how we pay for healthcare the way you just did. I think differently than most people, so I ended up coming from another direction. When our last kid turned 16, we wanted to put her in her car. We decided on a $10,000 budget. We looked through the paper. You find Hyundais for $89.95. $9,000 rent a car. Didn't realize that was a possibility. But I'm an American and I'm patriotic, so I checked Ford, Chrysler, and GM. Guess what? Their cars are the same essential car, stripped down, no options, $12,000. During the Obamacare discussion, General Motors pointed out that they spend more on health insurance for their employees and retirees than they do on steel. And they put a cost at $2,500 a vehicle. $2,500 is the lion's share of the price difference between a Hyundai and a Chevy. So my point is this: every company in America that does business overseas, their second biggest expense in all likelihood is health insurance for their employees, behind salaries. So if American businesses, and I mean small business up to big business, could shed their health insurance costs, that would enable American businesses in an overseas context probably more than repealing the corporate income tax would. It would probably be the single biggest thing America could do to unleash American businesses across the world, which would give employees more salary and create a lot more jobs.
And I think that's where you and I agree to, where if we had universal health care in our country here, we could grow our economy, meaning businesses would be able to compete
I guess my
better.
point is that if you want to sell that to the public, Give them something different to think about, because what you just said, they've all heard before. Tell them that it's time to get beyond the employer-based healthcare model. And that's when companies will have more money at their disposal. You know, they always talk about unleashing the job creators, okay? Well, the companies that are here are creating the jobs, so you give them more money to do it with.
Well, you could be my next speech prep. I'll take out the numbers.
It's just a different way of looking at it. It's the other side of the
Yeah,
coin.
I think I kind of touched on it about, I spent a good portion of the speech talking about starting my business and how it's important to start a business. and
You're exactly
continue.
right. You know,
So
I
I think-
looked into health insurance a number of years ago, and it was, 25,000 or 30,000 at that point. A lot of people complain that the price of healthcare has gone up. Well, it was going up before Obamacare too. It's not Obamacare isn't when they premiums go up. They were already going up.
So they're giving us this.
Well, I'd like to have as much time as possible for all of you in the room. And so I'm going to introduce our moderator, Ann Green, and she'll be the one timing you and telling you when your time is up and giving you the hook. So Ann, we're ready for you.
I have a couple notes here, just to make sure I'm consistent with my notes.
Really got a hook up there?
All right, I do, I have all kinds of stuff up here. Okay, well, as Mr. Chris Tuck pointed out where the exits were and the bathroom was, so we covered that. There's basically three goals that we have here at the town hall. One is to be heard. A lot of you have stories about how some of the different policies have affected your life and concerns that you have and how it will affect your life. Another goal that we have is to give you hope, to meet with other like-minded people, to exchange positions and network in, and to find other ways to become a little bit more activist in your message and in your concerns. There are a variety of different ways to do that, and that leads me into the third goal that we have is for action. We have resources. There's little pamphlets, little trifold pamphlets on some of the chairs there that give a whole host of different resources and ideas on how to become more effective and to leverage your voice, so that we can see some of the changes that we want to see. It all starts with ourselves and communicating with our representatives and taking action. With that, the way that we see our town hall functioning, if we were to have our representatives here, is that ideally it would be a two-way conversation. We'd have somebody comes up who gives a point, a message, a question, and then we'd have a response from the representative. It's a little one-sided tonight because we don't have our representatives too, but ideally that's the focus. It would give an opportunity for a meaningful and respectful exchange. So we do want to be respectful even though they aren't here in person. We want to allow, if they were here, to give explanations as to their position and listen to our other people in the audience and their ideas so that we both might benefit from it. Sometimes you have an idea, they have an idea, and together we come up with a third idea. Also, the way I remember this is God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be listening as much, if not more, than we're talking, so that we understand where other people are coming from. Again, you're not alone. You have your concerns about budget cuts, appointments to cabinet, priorities. There will be opportunities to meet and greet each other and to exchange ideas. A couple of rules, just to go back over. Donna gave some rules. Alaskans value diverse opinions, but we do so in a respectful way. No matter how passionate you are, let's not have any name calling when people aren't here to defend themselves, and if they were, that wouldn't be appropriate anyway. Direct your comments to policies, not any kind of personal business. No foul language. We have green cards again if you agree with something, red cards if you disagree with something. Speakers will get about 3 minutes. We move that up. Give you plenty of time to communicate your message. I'll give you there'll be a little timer that'll go off, and then just like Donna said, just kind of wrap it up and have a turn. When you get done, you can get right back in line to come again. Since there's so few of us this time, we should all be able to go through at least once or twice. And then also clean up after yourselves. The IBEW graciously allowed us to use this room, so be sure to take any trash that you might have. With that, I think we're ready to get started, so we can form a line. Donna, where do we want to have the line start? Right over there, so just come on forward this way. Yeah, just, and people can just line up right behind you. Give me 1 second to get my timers, and come on up to the podium, to the first one. Come on up. I'll set the clock here.
Okay, thank you for being here. I have a one-way ticket to Colorado for August 30th. I may have to leave the state in order to pay for my health insurance. Right now, my health insurance is being paid for by ACA tax credits. That means that the government, the federal government, is paying for my health insurance. If that tax credit is removed, my premiums will be $1,000 a month, which will be $12,000 a year. If that amount, well, with the proposal, I understand this is with the Senate, they will also be allowing insurance companies to charge more for people who are older. So potentially, next year, my premiums will be higher than my income. If I choose to pay that and avoid bankruptcy, because if I don't pay it and I get sick, I would lose all of my assets. I might lose my house. If I do choose to pay it out of my savings, it would wipe out my savings. And then if I get sick, I've got a $6,000 deductible, which means that even if I pay for the insurance, I could go bankrupt. My solution is to head to Colorado because premiums there are half the cost. I'll pay my brother a total amount of money to live at his place. I'll make that my official residence. I'll be down there 3 months out of the year. I don't have to be a resident of Colorado. I don't really want to do this. I would prefer to remain living in Alaska. I don't know what the Senate is going to decide, so I've already gone ahead and gotten the ticket so that I'll be in Colorado during the enrollment period, and I can choose where I'm going to live. I don't like doing this. It's really hard not being able to plan what I'm going to do in October, November, December. What I would like the ACA tax credits to be given to everybody. I think this is the best way to achieve universal health care. These credits could be then used to get insurance through your employer or through Medicare or through the native health care. That would allow people to still have the choice, and it would mean we'd have enough people in the pool to be able to cover the care. So I'd like to ask our representatives, what are you going to do so that I can stay in Alaska? I want to be here, and I'm really concerned about what's going to happen to our economy when people like me, who are self-employed, who are innovators and started businesses, leave the state.
Can you hear me back there? Okay. My contribution requires no response. I'd like to share a poem with you. Hey, you look great. Have you lost weight? Come on. What's your secret? Awkward. Roses are red, violets are blue. I've got cancer. What's new with you? Ooh. Pathology report. Endometrial tissue with complex hyperplasia, focal areas of atypia, focal areas suggestive of low-grade adenocarcinoma, which to me sounds like maybe if we squint and look at it sideways, kind of looks like cancer. Kind of looks like cancer. The treatment of choice is, of course, hysterectomy. from the Greek hysteros, which means uterus or womb. In the 5th century BCE, Hippocrates coined the term hysteria. That womb be floating around, causing all kinds of mischief, and that's why bitches be crazy. To my knowledge, no man has ever been told that he should have his prostate removed as a treatment for hysteria. I mean, conversion disorder. The American Psychiatric Association got rid of the term hysteria because bitches be sensitive. When I was in school, one of my teachers used to say, if you ever get a diagnosis of cancer, don't call your doctor, call your travel agent. Travel agent. That's at Durbs, the 80s. But I know what he means. The grinding stress of poverty and death that accompanies a diagnosis like that in this country. And then there's Juno. Our legislators never meant federal money they didn't love. But then a Negro family moved into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and that changed everything. Why, today they want Medicaid expansion, and the next thing you know, they'll want flat screen TVs. But of course, the treatment of choice is hysterectomy. As a 61-year-old woman, unemployed, 3 hairs away from homeless, I am the very definition of disposable.
I have a non-healthcare topic, however, I'm going to stick to healthcare for now because it looks like I might have a chance to go a second time.
All right.
I already mentioned the fact that there's another way of looking at health insurance. And by the way, we need to stop conflating healthcare with health insurance. 2 different things. We have amazing healthcare in this country. It's just we dispense it based on who can pay for it. Health insurance, if it wasn't employer-based, as I mentioned earlier, would, I think, unleash our economy. It would also be more fair and less expensive. Cheapest health insurance pool is the largest health insurance pool. One of the things that Senator Sullivan said, I give him credit for having the town hall, but he kept talking, when we talked about health care, he would say, we don't need a one-size-fits-all approach. Well, when Alaska's healthcare premiums are like quadruple what they are in every other state, forcing people to leave to get their health care, maybe one-size-fits-all might be a better deal for Alaskans. Another thing, I'm getting pretty old, and I'm kind of sick and tired of this big government versus small government talk. When is someone going to talk about smart government versus stupid government?
Yeah.
Okay? Right now, we have dozens of ways that the federal government pays for health insurance. Over half of Americans get federally funded health insurance. Surprise, surprise. But we've got Medicare for old people, Medicaid for poor people, Indian Health Service, VA, TRICARE for military, and whoever pays for the federal employees. How about using a smart thing and just rolling all the federal programs into one? You might find that you have enough savings to pay for everybody else without having to cost $10 trillion extra dollars. But even if you don't, just rolling all the programs into one at least starts to save money. How about if government starts being a little smarter about things instead of every time there's another, we're leaving somewhere else, we'll stick on another Band-Aid. Anyway, health insurance should be a right. It would be the cheapest and most fair way for all Americans and American businesses to take away the health care tied to your employment. As our new candidate spoke about, it limits what you can do. I was a commercial fisherman for a quarter century. There's no health insurance that comes with that. Fortunately, I ran a safe boat and nobody ever had to have a broken bone or even as much as a stitch on my boat. So, I got lucky. But that's what I've relied on my whole life. When Obamacare finally came along in 2014, I bought my first health care insurance. Why? Because I can at least buy in a pool of more than one person, so it doesn't cost me 50 grand to insure my family. Sure enough, I had to have an operation. It was supposed to be, I went in for a quick little office visit. I wake up in the freaking hospital with a 6-inch gash across my stomach. I couldn't afford that. I'm retired. My house is paid off. So what am I going to do? Remortgage my house or sell it to pay the 6 or 7 figure hospital bill? We shouldn't have to worry about that. I just read a letter to the editor today, written by a guy that, people that are sick and old should pay more. He doesn't realize that tomorrow he might be the sick guy. You don't know. I'm fat, I'm overweight, I don't eat great, I don't exercise as much as I should. I should be the guy that gets sick. My wife, who does everything right, got cancer 10 years ago. And if it wasn't for Medicaid, she wouldn't have been here tonight. She went outside to enjoy the sunshine because this kind of bored her. But the reality is that it affects her life. It affects our family. It affects a whole sphere of people. Just because one person has bad genes and gets sick in an unexpected way. Same thing can happen on our way home if we get hit by a freaking, drunk driver. Which just happened to me, by the way. I came, inches away from getting killed by a drunk driver. It's luck. That letter writer talked about fair. There's no fair. Let me tell you, there's no fair. Life isn't fair. So what we need to do is we need to bind ourselves together, to support each other, because we don't know who's going to be the next person in this room to need help. So, as a commercial fisherman, I have towed boats home in the middle of really hot fishing. I quit fishing and towed boats to a town because someday that might be me. And by the way, one time it was me. I had to get towed back in. So you do that because that's what we live in as a community. And if we pool our resources together, I can't afford to build a road every time I want to drive somewhere, but we pool our resources and we do things together. And healthcare has got to be one of those things.
Healthcare affects everybody in many different ways. One morning I woke up and could not move. As an iron dogger, being put on the bench is not an acceptable lifestyle. And to find out that corporations, these are insurance corporations, that now are literally every single American has to pay them, they can cancel and terminate any client at any given time. There is called an ERISA loophole. And they hide behind this loophole. And I have contacted all of the representatives. Mr. Wojkowski and Brooke were the only ones that have actually dug into it and found out what I was talking about is real, and it affects millions and millions of people worldwide. They suffer no consequences whatsoever. And in my case, where they terminated my file fraudulently, and I found out, and I literally gave them everything, all the documentation on it, proven that they were the ones that were fraudulent. I cannot sue them. I cannot do anything. No medical is given back. Nothing is refunded. All of that time, nothing. I am telling you, these insurance corporations are getting away with murder. Literally. And I am speaking up for all of those voices that have been silenced permanently because of this loophole. It affects everyone, and no one realizes it until you've been terminated. And they say they have specialists. Well, the specialist I found out said she worked for the Mayo Clinic. Well, the Mayo Clinic got my file. They were the first ones to receive my file. So I called them and asked them, how could one of your so-called specialists claim that I am okay and perfectly fine? Come to find out, she never worked there. Never. So we are talking fraudulent. This should be against the law. Should Prudential be allowed to be in business after committing fraud, financial fraud? I also am an IT specialist. I spent over 20 some odd years in computer science, and I worked hard for my career. And I am telling you, this is not fair. And to be told that I was fraudulent by saying that I was pretending to be sick after I've just had my 10th back surgery. I am telling you, people, this is not a lie. This is real, and this is happening every single day, and it needs to stop. And now we have to pay these insurance companies, and we can't. Why? They get away with breaking the law. They get away with being fraudulent, and they've been proven on it. I've busted them, literally, and there's nothing I can do because of this loophole. And until this loophole is closed, this will continue.
I'm Joni Bruner, and I'm terrified to get up here. So thank you, my friends, for being here. I worked in mental health for a few years, and one of my jobs in mental health was to sit in with the doctor while he examined and did a physical exam on the patients. When they came, they had to have a complete physical, and there had to be a chaperone. So I was the chaperone, and I was to sit there and pretend I didn't hear a thing. And I was very good at it. But some of the things I heard were terrifying to me. I had one woman that was in there, and she repeatedly asked her doctor, this doctor that was doing this exam, why her ankles were swollen. And I knew the answer. I knew why, because I've been through it already. I knew that most of her issue was the soda that she was drinking. And that doctor avoided it. She asked him 3 times, 3 different ways, how is this happening? What am I doing? What am I eating? Is there something I could do? And he would not answer her. That's not healthcare. It's a business. They are there to make money. It's us that need to do things to change how we're feeling and how our ankles are. And it's simple things like soda and what you're eating. If it's preservatives that are going into your body that you don't agree with, you have to stop, because you're the one who's in charge of your health care. I mean, you're the one who cares about it, not them. They're a business. The same thing with the insurance companies. I've gone round and round with insurance companies, and the things that they don't pay for are the things that you need the most, like nutrition education, knowing what to eat and what's causing what and what can fix what without the chemical compounds that they're trying to put into us to make us feel great. I don't think so. How many of you take a medication that you've had to switch because it wasn't working? You had to play around with, ibuprofen. Does it work for you? Or is it Tylenol that works better for you? Or is it Aleve? These kind of things. You need to kind of figure it out yourself. Your healthcare provider can't do all those things for you. So my question is, why are we trying to take the same old model of insurance companies being in the middle when we could take it into our own hands and say, you're not a good doctor, and I'm going to put it up on a website somewhere so that other people know that you're not a good doctor, and start telling each other who those good doctors are that can help us, that can really, really want to know about your health. Not a 5-minute in and out of the office. That's not care. And why we keep wanting the insurance to help us, that they need to get out of it, period. One system for all of us. and doctors that care is what we need.
How's everyone? Thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. Wish there was more people. My name is Mike Duris, and I'm actually part of AK Clue, and I'm one of the few people that you meet that actually was a health insurance agent at one time. Believe it or not. There's some things I'd like to actually probably address to the senators. I do email them a lot. By the way, before I forget, I usually hand out this to people. I stand in front of cars and hand it out. This is the easiest way to get hold of your congressman is to email them. You can mail, but if everybody's on email, right? And the email addresses are on here. And you can call the Peterson building anytime, 24 hours, 7 days, and any federal topic that you have for the senators or the congressmen, the numbers are on here. When the staff gets in next morning, they email directly to Washington, D.C., right?
So if you go in on our website and do it directly that way, it's going to be the most direct way.
Right.
For phone calls in our Anchorage office, they do get plugged up sometimes because of national call campaigns, but we do empty out the voicemail. If you leave a clear name, clear number, clear address, we're able to put you in the system and pass on to the DC staff. But if we don't have that information, we're unable to verify who it is, and so we're not able to put it into your account and pass it on. So it's very important to leave those key pieces of information slowly because we're sitting there trying to listen to the phone as we're typing. But yes, you guys are always welcome to stop by as well.
And let me just ask you, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Dylan.
When you get responses about, when you get feedback from the public, no matter what the issue might be, the senator does look at that, right?
Our senator staff advisor on the issues looks at it, and sometimes if our senator staff advisor on her feels that it's important that she sees it, it's passed on to her.
Okay, so let me get right into health insurance. Okay, I was very surprised, and you have to excuse me, and I don't want to sound too partisan, but I was very surprised to learn that the Affordable Health Care Act was not passed in the Senate or in the Congress by a bipartisan coalition. Apparently, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, none of the Republicans voted for it. This really surprised me because if you folks don't know, the Affordable Health Care Act was actually, I gotta move around, I can't stand still. The Affordable Health Care Act was actually originally Romney Care, which is what he passed in Massachusetts. And before that, it was conceived by the conservative think tank called the Heritage Foundation as a response to Hillary Clinton that wanted health insurance for everybody. So let me jump ahead a little bit. When the repeal, which is now in Congress right now, it's in the Senate, correct? It's in the Senate right now. I went online. There's a really good source to go online to read about health insurance. It's called Kaiser News. I sold health insurance in California. If I had the Affordable Health Care Act when I was selling health insurance in California, it'd have 40 to 70% more customers. The biggest objection was they couldn't afford it. The Affordable Health Care Act gave them tax breaks at the end of the year and ways to pay for their health insurance. It gave them a better plan. It put them on a group plan. It gave people guaranteed coverage up to 26 on their parents' plan, and it also covered pre-existing conditions. It really is the best thing for everybody, Republicans, Democrats, the insurance companies, except for single payer, which now that I'm in VA insurance, I'm in favor of. So I guess my question quickly to the senators are, if I don't understand why it was repealed. It sounds like it was a partisan effort to stop something which was a win-win-win situation. And I guess if they're going to repeal it, basically what they're going to have to do is put all the same provisions of the Affordable Health Care Act into place to make it viable. But I agree with the other people that are up there. I hate to tell everybody, but insurance is kind of a rip-off. We need single payer for everybody.
Hello, it's me again. I live in a household, like I mentioned, of 7 people who have universal health care. So I wake up every morning and there are 7 people who have universal health care coverage. So it seems to me, maybe I'm biased, that it's doable because it's right in front of me, right? It's hard, don't throw things at me, but when Affordable Care Act now is being repealed and people are losing their health insurance that they depend on, I feel like people should dispense with the whole concept of insurance and just ask for health care. and demand health care, because it's doable, it's being done, it's done all over the world. When there is pre-existing conditions, when there is cancer, there's nothing to insure. I used to be CPA, used to be tax accountant. There's nothing to insure. It's a pre-existing condition, it's known. The concept of insurance is you insuring an unknown. So if someone has a pre-existing condition, by definition there is no point to buy insurance because it's unknown. So when we bring insurance into this whole situation, we're simply shifting around costs to people. So when someone has cancer or pre-existing condition, or we need preventive care, it's health care. And it's being done for my kids, it's being done for my family, it's being done all over the world. So demand health care. Don't demand cheaper health insurance or access to health insurance. Let's elevate our standard a little higher to health care. So I would encourage everybody to, if you're going to dream, let's dream big. And then I would say that it's doable, and at a time when Congress is talking about lowering the corporate tax rate from 35% to 15%. As an accountant, that's mind-blowing. As a former CPA, that just blows your mind, the amount of money that's going to evaporate. And they're telling us we can't afford healthcare access for everybody. This kind of a lower tax rate for all these corporations, that's like healthcare 20 times over. So it's preposterous that these politicians are in Washington telling us that we can't afford universal health care when it's already being done, it's being done all over the world, and they're telling us we can't have it here in the United States, the richest country on earth. And they say, sometimes they say we're too big. As a business person, you say, well, that's economies of scale. The bigger you are, the more efficient the system will be. You would have more inputs. You could save costs, lower costs. It would be just more efficient and better. And people say, well, the government is awful at things. Well, that's not true. We're pretty good at military, right? And we have the world's best military. It's just what as a society we choose to value. So if we value healthcare, let's get healthcare. We will have the best healthcare in the world. Just like we have the best military, let's declare war on insurance companies. That's an easy one. But let's declare war on the lack of access to healthcare. So we need healthcare, let's demand healthcare. Thank you.
Well, I'm here to speak on a single issue as well, except it's a different one. I'm here to speak for the fish, for our fish, statewide. It's not that I don't care about these other issues, it's just that I've been a fish biologist for just a little over 50 years now, and so I'm a fish geek. So I speak, ask for protection for our fish, our fisheries, and fish habitat. And as I said, I care about other issues as well. I care about state and federal lands, freshwater, saltwater, and most importantly to our legislatures is no trading fish for other resources, no trading other resources for other resources. And I want to speak to a couple of really important issues that's going on right now. Evelbine and Chewitna coal mine over across the inlet. These are issues that are just going to, you can't mitigate. What are you going to do? You can't mitigate. You're going to lose fish. You're going to lose fish habitat in particular. I speak briefly on the issue of the road through the Eisenbeck Refuge. I guess I'm supposed to be using this, but I think you can hear me. Regarding that road through the Eisenbeck, I am empathetic with the residents of King Cove, and I'm sure they would be able to use that road, but obviously it's going to ruin some habitat. It's important bird migration point. But the real issue, I believe, in this matter is, if we build this road, how many more roads do we have to build all the way around our state? And I thank you for your time.
Well, as an ex-commercial fisherman, I want to second what our esteemed fish biologist said. And I'm going to take this opportunity, since he broke the healthcare spell, talk about what I came here to talk about tonight, and that's the fledgling marijuana industry. You probably all know that there's conflict between state and federal law. Among other things, that means most banks, including all the banks here, are federally chartered, meaning they would endanger their federal charter if they dealt with marijuana business, making it immensely difficult. There's other things like if you run a retail store, you can only write off the cost of the goods sold. You can't write off your rent or employees or fixtures or any of the other things that every other business gets to write off. Every company here, since they can't borrow from a bank, that means it's the family's all in. They've cashed in their 401ks. They've remortgaged their homes. That's exactly what happened. I cashed in my retirement and my partner remortgaged his house. And that's how we're getting started. Just a handful of the things that we can't do. If you admit to smoking marijuana, you can't buy a gun legally in this country. We can't use our Made in Alaska logo. If I need an employee, I can't call up job service. I don't know. Every week or two we find out more things that we can't do because of the conflicts in federal law and other government agencies or companies that don't want to mess with the big guy on the block, which is the U.S. government. You know, nobody wants to fight Uncle Sam. We have an attorney general that might shut down our business overnight. I might have to grow tomatoes until we get a more civilized government. But the reality is that the Senator Murkowski, as far as I know, has indeed co-sponsored legislation that would cut back, make the banking regulations easier. It would take marijuana off Schedule 1, which it doesn't even belong in the schedule at all. It shouldn't be a controlled substance. If you want to conflate marijuana with something, you ought to conflate it with coffee. Indeed, there's never been a documented case of a marijuana overdose. Just last week, there was a caffeine overdose with a kid that drank a Mountain Dew, a latte from McDonald's, and an energy drink, 400 plus milligrams of caffeine, and he killed over with a heart attack at school. Died. So, the government can allow us to take, including our kids, to take drugs. Caffeine's a drug. So I would argue that marijuana shouldn't even be on schedule. That means scientists can't get it to study it. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be a controlled substance. But the congressman, including Congressman Young, who started a so-called cannabis caucus, he's also introduced similar legislation. It's to just take away the most egregious conflicts, letting the rest of everything stand. Come on now. We have a thing called the 10th Amendment in our Constitution that says that if Congress is not empowered by the Constitution, they do not have the right to make laws in certain areas of our life. And the conservative Republicans that represent us love to tout the 10th Amendment. They call it federal overreach. And there's every aspect of life where they think the federal government doesn't belong, the 10th Amendment should rule, local states and the people ought to have a domain over their own lives. Why isn't marijuana on that list? I would argue that there's only one solution to this issue, and that is repealing federal marijuana laws, period, end of statement. It's simple, it's elegant, it's permanent. If Utah wants to be illegal for the next 200 years, let them be. But states ought to be able to control their own destiny. Businesses ought to be able to ship their products to another state. That's another thing we can't do. Why is marijuana different than everything else? So my question is, will you not just introduce legislation, but will you put some political capital behind it? I worked for a state senator, and they introduced legislation to mollify or stroke their constituents, having no intention actually spending some political capital to make sure a committee hearing happens and a vote happens, and making sure that this issue actually is talked about at a national level, where over 60% of Americans want legal marijuana. Thank you. Sorry to go on my 2 minutes.
All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Pete, and I just want to make a couple of comments here. I feel like I'm part of a larger movement that's speaking out against the President of the United States, the so-called Trump person here, who's advocating certain policies that I do not support, and I know that a lot of you probably don't support either. But I wanted to say that the objective today is try to convey our sentiments to our esteemed representatives in Congress. One, I want to point out that Representative Young has supported both attempts at repealing the Health Care Act. And I think it's time to get rid of Representative Young and replace that individual. It's really because of the fact that he's not supporting what Alaskans are speaking to. Where all of us here are speaking about health care issues, and he's taking different positions. I think you've read the news, you've heard about it. You've heard his spiel on how he's promoting the repeal of the ACA, but really I think the bottom line is individuals in Congress know that they need this health care bill repealed in order to set up the tax cut bill. It's all about transferring money from the poor, taking more from the poor and giving it to the corporate wealthy. And we know that's what Trump wants here. So I think that's one thing I want to sort of emphasize, is that if we're going to do some sort of movement to convey to our representatives that you're accountable to we the people, we should all start pressing them and saying, stand up for Alaskans and what's important to us. It sounds like healthcare is very important to us, and you shouldn't carve it out. Message. Thank you.
Wow. Hi, my name is Raymond. Raymond O'Neill. I've lived in Alaska about 15 years. 13 of those have been here in Anchorage. I love it. I came up here to check it out for a couple of years, and I've stayed. I share my health care story. Some of you probably heard it. I had to be hospitalized in Thailand a few years ago. I was pretty scared, to walk into an emergency room in Patong, but it was fine. I didn't have to wait much longer than I waited anywhere here, and there was an English-speaking physician that met me, and they had to refer me to a specialist in Bangkok, and I went and was hospitalized for 2 days, got my treatments. I had a selection when I went in there. I was able to choose the American treatment. It cost a little more, but I had my own room. And when I left there after 2 days, I was able to afford it. I could pay for it. And I since learned that all the citizens of Thailand have a Social Security card. There's an income tax that citizens pay, and everybody is covered with health insurance. And it was fine. Today, I'm really lucky. Most of my life, Thailand notwithstanding, I'm really healthy, but I'm starting to get older. And I'm starting to get concerned. And I see people in my community that are impacted by this healthcare scam. And it really is. There's no reason that we shouldn't have... actually, there's no reason why I should have to take the time to go and learn the difference between a single-payer healthcare plan and a universal healthcare plan. But, they're different things. But I've got to, try to learn this stuff and stay on top of it, because the wool's being pulled over my eyes. There's these folks here. I mean, I can say thanks to Sullivan for doing the town hall last weekend. That was cool. And Lisa Murkowski, she was reported to have been one of the first GOP to speak out about an independent commission to investigate this lying crook Trump. So kudos for that. Don Young, I got nothing. He needs to go. He's an embarrassment. He's an embarrassment for Alaska. So I'd encourage everybody to do what you can. Similarly, there's a kind of a system in place. I learned recently that 7 of the 12 richest counties in the United States border on Washington, D.C. There's such a concentration of wealth in this country through these systems like healthcare, whereby corporations are taking in lots and lots of money to the top, and with that money, they're buying policy. And it's happening with the prison industry. You're not going to legalize marijuana if you can have a war on drugs and people are making money on commercial prisons. There are racial components. There's a lot to what's going on with our government, and we can talk like this and we can sit, but I made some signs. You see these signs? I stand out in front of their office. I yell and scream. I've been to D.C. a couple of times to talk to these people, and I'm not, Murkowski and Young, who else? Our governor, our mayor, they were all in a meeting today with their other constituents. The Oil and Gas Association of Alaska had their annual meeting. They were in there.
The Heritage Foundation.
Yeah. There's I want to encourage everybody who hasn't been on the street, hasn't been yelling, hasn't been joining some of these groups out on the street, to come join us, to come be with us and be heard that way, because that's a strategy that's being effective in this country right now. Thanks.
Where's the march?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Join us Saturday. This Saturday, March for Truth. We're demanding an independent commission, not just a Supreme Court prosecutor, not just a Supreme Court prosecutor, but an independent commission like we had for 9/11 to look at everything. It needs to be funded. It needs to be resourced to do a full investigation of Donald Trump, his cadre during the campaign, their connections with Russia, his business dealings throughout the world, where he's a for-profit president, and that's not what democracy is about.
A lot of money to Russians.
We don't know that. We would like to know the truth. So we're demanding the truth. This is the March for Truth on Saturday. We start at 2 o'clock, 9th and East Street. Join us. There'll be a pledge board you can sign for Don Young to be done. And we've got a great big board. Write your name on it. We're going to deliver it to his office, and he can have it. I'm going to get back in line and talk.
It's here. It's here, Raymond.
Oh, right there.
Pledge stone is here.
Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my own comment, 'cause I guess I'm in line now. I missed it because my Planned Parenthood peeps left, but I volunteer weekly with Planned Parenthood to do phone calls. And I'm very concerned about what the new health care bill, the AHCA, is going to do to women and children. A lot of women rely on Planned Parenthood in a sliding scale to have their women's health needs met, for STD testing and treatment, for sexual education, those types of things. And I'm really concerned if that's gutted, that we're going to see an increase in sexual transmitted diseases, unplanned pregnancies. Abortions are still going to occur, but there are going to be more people that are maimed by it than would if it were done in a clinic. It's really going to be a travesty. And I don't understand, for people that claim to be anti-abortion, how defunding inexpensive contraceptions is going to help in that matter. So so one of the things I want to do is I want to shout out to Lisa Murkowski for defending Planned Parenthood and for looking out for women and children, and also is against some of the Medicaid rollbacks the poorest among us, the vast majority who are women and children. And thank you very much for that. I don't have a whole lot for Don Young or Senator Sullivan because they didn't do a whole lot for us. So one of the questions that I do have for Senator Sullivan during his town hall is he claimed that there were a lot more public health centers in Alaska versus Planned Parenthood, and that we could just shift money from Planned Parenthood to these other clinics and women would be served. And he gave some outlandish number, like 1,200 clinics. I looked everywhere, and unless they're counting school nurse offices and dentists' offices and stuff like that, similar to how the GOP in Florida did, saying that helps women, there's no way you can come up with the same number of treatment options for women in the state. Yes, they only have 4 offices, but they're the only office that can also do telemedicine and prescribe birth control pills through the internet. It's an invaluable service to Alaska, and it's an invaluable service to women in America, and I don't want to see it defunded without having a viable option, because it's going to cause more problems, more children born in poverty. It's going to cause more long-term effects that are not going to be good for this country. So, thank you.
Hi. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to look at the administration's proposed budget proposal, but it's like, I was looking at that thing online, and it was like, everything that it's good or that you might want, like, international aid for starving people, that's like, no more budget for that, the military buildup, big budget increases for that. So there are a lot of things in the president's budget that are pretty much, if I agree with it, it's not funded, and if I don't agree with it, it's being funded at huge levels. But one of the things, and this is a very small thing, I'm a biologist, and one of the reasons I'm getting up here is because the fish guy got up here, and so this is not about healthcare, but I've spent basically my whole career protecting endangered species, and we've got the Endangered Species Act, and we've also got the Marine Mammal Protection Act. One of the line items in the administration's proposed budget is the elimination of one component under the Marine Mammal Protection Act, which is the Marine Mammal Commission. It's a commission that was established as part of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and as you know, marine mammals are a very important part of Alaska's fauna. The president's budget says no more Marine Mammal Commission. The Marine Mammal Commission it's an independent federal agency established by Congress. It's responsible for overseeing the implementation of the Marine Mammal Protection Act. Provides independent science-based information regarding marine mammals. It also enhances tribal consultation between Alaska Native organizations and the federal government. So it does good things for marine mammals. And I just found out about this today, and I just have to share it. There was a letter that was written yesterday. It's signed by 35 Democrats and 1 Republican, saying that it's to the chairman of the Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, and Science-Related Agencies, and it says, we reject the president's elimination of the Marine Mammal Commission, and we think it should be reestablished and that the funding should be brought up to current levels so that they can continue their functioning. And like I say, this was signed by 35 Democrats and 1 Republican. I brought a copy of this with me. The 1 Republican who signed it was Don Young. I don't understand what he was thinking. I wish he was here so I could ask him, what were you thinking? This is probably one of the few things that I can think of that I totally agree with Don Young. So, green card for Don Young.
Let's call on the rest of our Alaska delegation to sign on to that.
Yeah.
Mr. Senator Sullivan.
There you go.
I don't know if you want to side with that liberal Don Young.
All right, we're getting rowdy. Maybe we're getting hungry. Can you hear me? I just wanted to say thank you for coming. This is my second town hall. Our first one, I think we had standing room only, about 100 people, and then Dan Young's town hall think it's, what, 500 plus people? So I want to acknowledge, 700?
Thanks so much.
Oh, excuse me, I get them all mixed up. But thank you for coming, because what makes this happen is people taking the time, especially when it's sunny. So namaste to everybody. I'm going to ask the same question I asked at the first town hall, and I kind of wish I was looking at them. And my thing that I've been asking our representatives from day one is, when will you stand up to Donald Trump's lying? Where is our integrity? I mean, every time, it's something, it's a weird tweet, it's another lie, it's the way he shoved the it's just, when, pardon me? Yeah, it's like, just so when will any one of these members make a public statement about the lack of integrity of our president? Thank you.
Actually glad I got another chance to come up. There's 3 topics that I did want to speak on. One was closing of the ERISA loophole, which Murkowski has been contacted on, Dylan. And so she has told me personally that she's working on including it and wrapped in one of the current bills that she's got on board.
Could you repeat that first part, please?
Closing the ERISA loophole. ERISA.
ERISA.
Correct.
Driving healthcare staffers all.
Okay, and she's very well aware of what's going on with that. Number 2 is Pebble Mine and all of our fishing resources. I'm glad he brought that up. I just sent my husband and my son off. We also have a commercial fishing business out of Bristol Bay. And if Pebble Mine goes through, not only will it affect the people, but we also have to think about the fish. That is the last natural resource for fish. That is the final, in the globe, natural spawning ground for salmon in the world. And they want to touch it. We have to stand up and say, no, why is Pebble Mine back on the board again? Why was Trump allowed to just put that right back on? That we need to stand up as Alaskans and say, no way. Also, number 3 that I wanted to bring up was the cannabis legalization. We have spoken plenty of times on this. When are our legislators going to listen to us? We don't need laws binding adults anymore. Cannabis has not killed a single person. I was on fentanyl, and I am telling you, that is the worst drug known to man. I woke up on the floor, I had slobbering, I had crap, peed myself, and I was literally on the floor for hours. And I woke up, and that was from fentanyl. CBD oils got me off of fentanyl in less than 6 weeks. Clearly, off. 2 weeks later, Prince died from fentanyl. So I'm telling you, these are very important, and we as Alaskans, we are the strongest of the Americans that I can think of, because when we stand up tall, and we stand up proud, and we need to, we have to, because our whole entire country is counting on us right now, because we have to save our fish, we have to save our health care, and we have to save this cannabis industry that they are trying to destroy. And we have spoken too many times. Why? So that's what I want to ask. Why?
Probably go a little over. There's one thing I wanted to talk about which wasn't brought up yet tonight, Social Security. Okay, my wife, about 10 years ago, we're not officially married, it's Social Security disability. She was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome 10 years ago. She relies on Social Security disability to get by. Okay? The present bill in Congress wants to reduce Social Security disability payments, which is not civil, not appropriate. Most people don't know, but I'm 58 years old. People in their 40s and people that are younger than me generally don't understand what Social Security, FICA, Social Security disability is. FICA on your check. That's a disability plan for working class. And that's what we pay into. People like the Koch brothers and other billionaires, and some billionaires, want to get rid of that. And it's going to put people out in the street. So, the other point I wanted to make about Social Security, the Social Security Trust Fund, despite what they tell you, is solvent to the year 2034 in its present form. I spoke to Dan Sullivan over the phone, and he said, well, what do we tell people in the 40s where after it becomes insolvent? What do we do? What kind of changes do we make? And I mentioned to him, and he seemed to not hear me or maybe not want to hear me, that Mark Begich, his predecessor, put in a bill in Congress to raise the Social Security tax cap. Back up a little bit. Social Security caps out at $127,000 a year. So if you make over $127,000 a year, you pay no additional Social Security taxes. So if we lift that cap, Social Security is solvent to 2080 in its present form. Now that I'm 58 years old, all of a sudden Social Security retirement is very important to me. So the notion that Social Security is not solvent is bogus. It's wrong. It's a lie. There's a certain amount of congressmen and senators and maybe Donald Trump himself that want to give it to Wall Street. The Social Security Trust Fund is solvent. It's about a $2 to $3 trillion trust fund. Okay, so when you hear people say it's not solvent, it takes away from the deficit, it's completely wrong. It has nothing to do with the deficit. It's a trust fund. Okay, so write your congressman. We gave you those white sheets. Email them and say you don't want any changes to Social Security. In fact, you want to see it expanded. That's my recommendation, because if we start to get away, if we start to reduce Social Security payments, we privatize it, we give it to Wall Street, it's going to be bad news for the economy in the long run. That's why, by the way, people like Warren Buffett and some other millionaires actually were for Hillary Clinton, because they look at things in the long term. And they said we need things like Social Security, we need things like job training programs, we need things like Section 8 housing, which you're thinking of cutting. We need things like food stamps. This will stabilize the working class and the poor, and this will stabilize the markets and the economy in the long term. And that's one of the reasons I volunteer very hard for this organization.
My name is Donna. I was actually going to get up and tell a healthcare story, but we've heard a lot of those. So I want to mention something that Senator Sullivan mentioned at his town hall, and that I saw something on Facebook today with the visits from the federal dignitaries here in Alaska that, to me, strikes me as very important. Senator Sullivan talked about two things that he was working on. One of them was job creation, and another one was at least an acknowledgement that climate change is real. Now, he might not believe that human beings are contributing to climate change, but at least he does believe that climate change is a thing. And today we got a lot of things signed, open up the oil fields, get rid of some of the less protected parts of ANWR, develop those things. And to me, that's a huge step backwards. What we need to be doing is creating jobs that are based on alternative energy. Oil is not going to last forever, okay? We need different things to do. And Alaska has never been a manufacturing state, but this is an opportunity. Even the president wants to put a tariff on the import of alternative energy technology, but that works in our favor too, because that means he wants to build it here. Well, why can't we work on developing a program like that here in Alaska that will give us different jobs and get us off oil dependence?
I figured I'd talk again.
Yay.
Yeah. I just want to put another plug for Saturday, March for Truth. We need to get Donald Trump out of office. He's not good for this country. I also want to encourage everyone, again, to get vocal. The more we are calling, emailing, sending cards, the less they can work against our interests. And that's what they're doing in healthcare, in energy policy, in immigration reform. They're working against our best interests. They have a donor class that they work for that is interested in setting up more and more of these systems whereby our tax monies get funneled to a few places, to a few corporations. And it's this healthcare issue and this healthcare reform right now is the largest shift of wealth this country's ever seen. And that's all that it is. That's why it's happening. They don't want to go to a single payer or a national health care system. I told my story, the one that I just told you here, to Dan Sullivan in his office, and he laughed at me. We all heard him in his town hall. He says, like, no way. Well, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're working against our best interest. We are going to have a universal health care plan, and you need to tell them that every chance you get. So again, come out Tuesday. We're going to be focusing on the lies. On Facebook, there's a contest. Your favorite worst lie, and it's kind of fun. So I encourage you to check that out. And yeah, I'll be rallying. You'll see me out there. I hope you'll join me. Yeah, that's it. I'm waiting for the buzzer to go off. There's got to be more I can say. Like when I think about coming to this, it's like where do you start? Like where do I start with this situation? And a big part of it is money in politics. It's out of control. Neil Gorsuch is a fan of the Citizens United and this continued concentration of wealth, and it's going to be the demise of our democracy. There's a report out today from Intercept, the security forces that were hired to protect Dapple, Tiger Swan, right? They're working directly with the government, and they've labeled the people that are protesting, or the water protectors, as insurgents. They're not insurgents. These are American citizens. This is what happens when corporation becomes owned by the government, or vice versa. It's called fascism, and it's where we're going. And Donald Trump would have the press completely, well, he's been working on it. And what we need is the truth. So these actions that our administration, our president are taking are unacceptable. They're undemocratic. They're an international humiliation. And I can't say it in strong enough terms. So you'll hear me screaming it on the street. Yeah, and I encourage you to do the same, because they'll hear it. And I'm not too concerned that they're not here, because they don't hold the power. We hold the power. The people hold the power. Yeah, so thank you.
Thanks, Brady.
So we've got one more speaker who's just going to finish up, and that'll be the last one for this evening. And then afterwards, feel free to stop by the table, sign some petitions, get plugged in. Be sure you got that trifold brochure that tells you about all different ways to access different movements and different ways to protest. And like I said, amplify and be heard. 907 Hub is a great way to find out what's going on. Check out AK Clue, a few other organizations. So one more speaker.
You can join our meetings. When is our meetings?
AK Clue meets on Saturdays, usually around somewhere between 12 and 2. If you go to our website at AK-Clue, CLUE, it's on Facebook. It's a Facebook community group page. Then you can find out more about our meetings, and you can always send a private message to one of us as well.
One other thing, we are going to post this at AK Clue Facebook, this video, which I'm showing you right now. And it's also on our YouTube channel, AK Clue. Also, if anybody wants to get interviewed, I'll interview you after and throw it up there. If you got something to say to the congressman or something to say on a policy issue, let me know. I'll interview you right now.
Thanks, Nick.
I just want to echo the comments I made earlier about the cannabis industry, and I'm speaking a lot to you right now, Dylan, because I'm going to talk now a little bit more about the politics of this issue. I'm deeply steeped in this. I was raised by an alcoholic father who's violent to my mom and my brother and I. I'm not going to go into details, but let's just say I was relieved when he left our home when I was 10, when I became the man of the house. The politics of this issue has a long history, obviously. I mean, the history of marijuana has been centuries and centuries. The Gallup organization, probably our oldest polling organization in the country, has been polling this issue since 1969, when 12% of Americans favored legalized marijuana. It has been a steady progression. It's not gone up and down like the stock market ever. It's always gone up. This last year, the Gallup organization measured it at 61%. For legalized marijuana, we're talking recreational, open, just like buying it at a liquor store. When it comes to medical marijuana, the number is closer to 80%. If my memory serves right, it's 78% of Americans nationwide that support legal medical marijuana. CBS News just had a poll about 2 or 3 weeks ago. 62% of Americans support legal marijuana in their poll, up 5 points from the last year. And right here in this state, we had a poll. We voted to legalize marijuana in 2014, but we just had another poll. The marijuana initiative allowed for cities and villages to be able to opt out like they can with alcohol. And just about a month ago, or less, there was a vote in the city of Valdez to opt out of the marijuana industry. Now, Valdez has more experience than anyone else because they had the first cannabis shop open, the first retail cannabis store opened in Valdez. On the question of shall we exclude marijuana from our community, yes, 316, no, 1,009. 76.15% of Valdez residents support the marijuana industry because they've seen what happens. They know that it's not a danger to their community. Indeed, it's an asset. It's more jobs. Now, I also want to speak a moment because I worked for several years as an aide to a state senator. They have terms like stroking, okay? Constituent calls up, they got a great issue. So I'll introduce a bill on your behalf. They have no intention of spending any political capital of making sure that bill passes or even gets a hearing. And I think, frankly, I spoke to Dan Sullivan after the town hall weekend ago, and he told me he didn't think there was support in Congress for legal marijuana. Well, how the hell are we going to find out if it's not even talked about? The reality is, I think if marijuana became a national topic, if there was an actual bill in the Senate or the House where constituents could call up and say, I support Senate Bill 20, or I oppose Senate Bill 20, I think that most elected representatives might be quite surprised at what their constituents favor. This is not a liberal or a Democratic issue. It's more of a generational issue. I have 5 millennial children. They can't believe this is still an issue. And if you guys want to get millennial votes, my generation's dying off. Partly because we can't get health care. So the reality is that, this is an issue of the future, and elected leaders tend to lag far behind the sensibilities of the population. This is an opportunity to catch up and be a leader. The citizens of this state support this industry. You're not going to lose votes by supporting this industry. So it's time to actually introduce some legislation that repeals marijuana statutes. Now, I'm all in favor of keeping,